Let's continue our discussion on synchronization. And whatever we have studied so far about the atomics, in particular atomic gas, let's try to understand it in the context of identifying the output of this particular program shown on the screen. I would like everybody to spend some time thinking about it. I'm going to disable chat for a while. Yeah, please think about what all possibilities exist in executing this code. All right, I have enabled the chat now. Um, so what are the suggestions with respect to what could be the output? Just to make sure we are on the same page, there is a global variable, global meaning it's CUDA malloc variable, whose value is set to 0 initially, and then the kernel is launched with 2 thread blocks, each containing 1 warp. There are 3 printf statements which might get printed because of 3 different atomics followed by conditionals. So let's discuss step by step. So which thread prints the first printer? Sorry, you'll have to listen to my coughing or maybe a coffee lecture today. I have not been keeping well. Maybe I can sip some warm water. Yeah, so who will print the first printer? If there is any trouble in understanding any of these, please let me know. Okay. Right. So the thread IDs are not from 0 to 63. Thread IDs are from 0 to 31 and 0 to 31 in 2 blocks. But yeah, I understand what Sanket is saying about 0 to 63, which means there are 64 threads and any of them might be able to get that. So atomic cache checks if the value of GG, the value stored in the memory location GG is 0. And if that is the case, it is going to replace it with whatever is the thread ID, my thread ID plus 1. Now, this is going to be executed by every thread, but only one thread is going to see the return value to be 0, because every thread is going to update the value to something above 0, right? That's why that thread ID x plus 1. And therefore, exactly one thread out of these 64 will succeed in executing the atomic gas, and therefore old equals 0 is going to be true for 1, and that thread ID will get printed. So that seems to be fine. Second print. And in this exercise, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Only because your friends are giving answers, that doesn't mean that you cannot ask questions. So feel free to ask. Okay, Venkat and Sheth are suggesting that the second printf is not executed at all. Please see if that is correct.
Sir,
Yeah, Venkat.
sir, when atomic gas fails, it just returns whatever is the original value, right?
Yes.
Sir, so like since thread ID X, like in the first atomic gas, we are doing thread ID X dot X plus one. So whichever thread, if it succeeds, its value will definitely be greater than zero. So
Yes.
this one, this old will definitely not be zero, right? So the second printf won't be executed.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to discuss that. Sure. Agreed. Yeah. I was just waiting for everybody to try out. Okay, let's discuss the second one. So now what we are making sure is that anybody who has executed the atomic gas, and there is a guarantee that at least one thread will see the value of GG to be 0, and therefore that thread is definitely going to increase the value of GG from 0 to something above 0. And therefore the second atomic gas, which is looking at if GG equals 0, then update it to thread ID x plus 1, that is never going to happen for any of these 64 threads, and therefore the second printf will not be executed. So that seems to be correct. Okay. Now let's come to the third part. So yeah, I'll wait for a few more seconds for everybody to try out.
Sir, one doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, so because we only have threads from one warp, can we say that thread ID 0 will execute first, then 1 and so on? Or is that order not fixed?
No. There is no. We cannot guarantee the order.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, it so happens. I'll mention this to you. It so happens that when you have printfs from different threads of the warp, In practice, we have observed that the printfs get concatenated according to the thread ID order within the warp. But that could just be implementation specific. There is no such documented evidence which says that the printfs will get executed in that order, right? So we should not rely on that. But definitely, as far as instructions are concerned, those are anyway executing in SIMD order, but we cannot guarantee that those will execute in 0 to 31. Correct. All right. So let's come to the third part. Here, we expect in general that if GG, the value of GG, whatever it has been set, if it is equal to my thread ID, which means that if my previous thread in the 0 to, let's say, 31, if that thread has successfully executed this atomic cache, first atomic cache, then it has set the value of GG to my thread ID because of thread ID +1. And if I am that thread, I mean, whose value is currently same as GG, then I'm going to execute successfully this atomic cache and I'm going to reset it to -1. So this particular previous one is going to be true only for 0 to 30 threads, because if it was thread number 31 which executed this, then it would set it to GG value to be 32, and there is no thread ID with 32, and therefore there is a possibility that none of the threads will see the value of GG to be 32, right? And therefore none of those will successfully execute atomic cache, right? So in case it so happens that it is one of the 0 to 30 threads who had updated this GG earlier in the first atomic cache, then the old value is going to get returned, which is the same as the thread ID, right? And if I see that my thread ID is the same as old, which means that my previous thread had successfully executed it, then I'm going to just print this, right? So again, this what Venkat and Niranjan and Divya have written, that is correct, that the third printf might get executed, might not get executed. In most cases, it is going to get executed, but there is no guarantee, right? Any questions on this part? All right, we'll move ahead from here. Yeah, so these are the points corresponding to that. Yeah, these we have discussed. So let's move ahead to another classwork, right? What we want to do is that we want to add elements to a work list. As soon as we are talking about a work list, that means that we are talking about some sort of sparse algorithm. I mean, some algorithm which is operating on a sparse data structure or sparse data. As an example, if we are talking about single source shortest path, then we usually maintain a work list which keeps track of what nodes are active in every iteration. Think about it like a queue. Let's say you are doing a BFS, right? So initially only the source node is in the root node is in the queue, and then you pop that and push the neighbors of that node after settling their distances to root nodes is 0, so this is going to be +1 and so on in the BFS manner. In a similar manner, you can do for SSSP also. So this queue, we are calling it as a work list, right? And what is the processing of this work list? That the nodes are getting processed in the pushed in this work list in this manner. Many times on CPU, we might implement a queue or a work list using a linked list. But on GPU, since we would like to do that in parallel, we would like to implement the work list as an array so that multiple threads can operate on multiple elements at the same time. So when From root node, there are, let's say, 10 neighbors. All these 10 neighbors can be operated on by different threads, right? So that is what we would like to do in the work list implementation. Was there any question?
Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question, but it is generic and like not related to this particular classwork.
Sure, go ahead.
Sir, so if I want to do, if I want to create some struct, or like if I am having a linked list, is there any possibility of making it like making sure that the linked list is allocated on the shared memory instead of global memory? Because I read online somewhere that linked lists are not really preferred to be like operations on linked lists are not preferred to be done on GPUs, and there's some constraint on that. Is that true?
Typically, I mean, most of the cases we expect the GPU to be used for data parallel operations. And as soon as we are talking about linked list, there is a sequentiality, right? We have to follow the next pointer or the previous pointer. And therefore, this sequentiality will take away the advantage of doing the GPU based processing. However, um, um, so whatever you can do with respect to a linked list, you can as well push that data into an array and perform the processing. So that is probably going to be much better. In fact, you can traverse the linked list on the CPU, transfer the data to an array, allocate a copy it to the GPU memory, and then perform the processing, assuming that the processing is going to be little bit more compute intensive than the overheads of copying it from CPU to GPU, right? So that way, whatever people say online is correct. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's more like a performance related penalty that we need to pay. And therefore we should not use the direct linked list. If at all you want to use arrays, or you use specialized linked list where each linked list does not contain one node, but it can contain multiple nodes. In which case you can give, let's say, one node completely of that linked list to, let's say, one thread block or one warp, and perform the processing in parallel. So there will be some sequentiality, but it will get reduced. So it's more like a generalization of linked list and array. Now coming to the question of can you create a linked list in shared memory? Yes, technically there is no stopping from creating a linked list in shared memory. It's just that you will have to manipulate the addresses accordingly. So essentially what you will get is a sequence of bytes, and that we are going to write to, very similar to when we do a malloc, and then we can do some structure dot field name equal to something. That can be done for this also. It's just that you will have to manipulate pointers, maybe save address of next, etc. So all of these pointer related stuff will come into picture. So you can store a linked list also in a shared memory. That is not an issue. It's just that it is going to be limited. So if it is going to be useful for processing within the thread block, I think you can store it in the shared memory also.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other concerns? Okay. Okay. So we were discussing about this work list, which is implemented as an array. Now, what we want to do is that threads are adding elements to this work list. So there is some work list, right? And you can assume initially that it is empty. That is also okay, right? But each thread is now adding, let's say, exactly k elements to this work list. Right? Since we are dealing with graph algorithm, that to parallel graph algorithm, it's okay even if threads insert these elements in any order. Although from the perspective of Dijkstra's algorithm or some other algorithms where this guarantee of certain invariants need to be maintained, that whenever you settle a distance that is its final distance, etc. So that guarantee you will lose because of this parallel processing, but we'll keep that aside for now. Those are algorithmic issues which we'll have to tackle in a different way. Currently, we are interested in synchronizing across different threads while inserting into the same array or same work list. So each thread is inserting exactly k elements, and I would like you to think about how each thread will perform this process. So you can assume that there is some k number of elements array which is present in each thread, and now it just wants to copy that information to a global work list. So please think about that, and in case you want to write CUDA code or pseudo code, please write it in the chat box. Okay, so Sanket is saying that he needs more explanation about the question. So the question is that there is an array, assume that it is empty, right? And there are some number of threads running, some number of thread blocks, some number of warps, etc. And all of them want to push k elements in any arbitrary order to this shared array. Shared meaning it's in the global memory, CUDA malloc memory. How should they synchronize with each other? That is the question that we are discussing. Does that seem reasonable, Sanket? Anything that is not understood? Okay.
Sir, since we have introduced compare and swap, can we assume that we can use locks?
You can use locks, no problem. So
Okay.
you can assume that you have implemented the lock in some way, the way we have discussed earlier, and then you can use it. Sure, no problem.
Okay, sir.
But also think about if you can reduce the cost, essentially improve performance, which we'll discuss. An aside, but the cup says happiness is following your heart. Which might be an interesting takeaway for many of us. Sometimes we just join the job that is in the race for, that's everybody is in the race for. But I think you should do something in life which you enjoy doing. So anybody who has any suggestions on how this can be implemented? Not how to follow your heart, but how to insert elements into this work list.
So, like in a typical array-like fashion, we can have a counter which tells the start and the end, and a critical section can be maintained with a lock at the beginning, where if anyone wants to add anything, they'll get the lock, they'll add it, and then we'll release the lock. Like
Yeah.
basic implementation, yes.
No, I was not smiling at your explanation. I was smiling at Shade's message. Uh, yeah, sure. Yeah, Venkat, that is fine. So what will you have in the critical section?
Sir, in the critical section, like I'll be updating the counter, adding the element, like whichever element my current thread wants to add.
Okay, so there are at least two instructions in that critical section.
Yeah.
Sure. So this is also a good check correct in the sense that if you have exactly one instruction in the critical section, you should rethink if you really require a lock. If there are multiple, then it makes sense, most probably. Although in this case, we might be able to optimize that a little bit. So, any suggestions?
So can't we like assign like in the initial work list that we could have malloc it onto the GPU? Can't we uh, divide it into buffers for each thread and maintain a start and end for the buffer in the thread itself?
Very good.
That way we can ensure there are no data races as well, since each thread will only be updating its own section that's allotted to it.
That's a good way of enforcing this. So,
Sir?
yeah, Venkat, go ahead.
Sir, but like, doesn't it say a work list? I assume that we'll have to simulate a list rather than having an array of fixed size.
Yeah. No, so array, yeah, that is correct. I mean, nomenclature wise, it should be a list, but it's going to be difficult to maintain that in the GPU. So yeah, we'll have to have an array there of fixed size, in fact. Although we'll call it as work list, or maybe we can call it work array or something. But yeah, you are right. So since we said that the GPU is good at data parallel processing, one of the ways in which this can be done is that let threads have their own fixed location. Since everybody is going to insert exactly k elements, well, give everybody the k chunks, k size chunks, right? So thread 0 gets 0 to k minus 1, thread 1 gets k to 2k minus 1, and so on. So all of this, then if this is already known to threads, they don't need to synchronize at all amongst each other, right? What is the downside of this? The downside, I mean, there are multiple, but the downside is that here there is an assumption that every thread inserts into the queue. If every thread is inserting into the queue, maybe that is not really a very interesting scenario from the perspective of the application that we are discussing, because only a few threads are going to add. Although we are still simplifying it by saying that out of 1000 threads, let's say 100 threads are pushing elements, but each one is pushing exactly k elements. Maybe because it's a k regular graph or something. But 900 threads are not pushing. In which case, we don't know if these 100 threads are going to be contiguous or not. These could be arbitrarily spaced in 0 to 999 threads. And therefore, it is not clear how we should be distributing these 0 to k minus 1 entries into the array. But that was a good point, Niranjan. You should definitely start with such a thinking that can I avoid synchronization altogether? I might take more amount of memory. In fact, that is something which we'll study a little later. It is okay to have more amount of memory sometimes, but it is avoiding synchronization, and therefore my performance is going to be much better. So that is also okay. Okay, Sanket is suggesting something. Counter equal to 0 to t threads. Let's a thread gets I as counter value using locks, then assign I to I plus k memory to that thread. That's a very good point. So let's discuss that suggestion. So what Sanket is saying is that there are some out of 100 threads are wanting to insert into the array. Each one updates this counter using synchronization, in this case locks, as suggested by Venkat and Sanket. Once you have the lock, that means that you have updated the counter value from 0 to k, then some other thread to 2k, then some other thread to 3k, and so on. It doesn't matter in which order these 100 threads are coming, but at the end of all these 100 threads execution, or even 1000 threads execution, the value of counter is going to be exactly 100 into k. Okay? That guarantee we have, but threads can come in any order and they will get different chunks. For example, thread 59 might get the first chunk, and then so on. Right? So this seems to be an interesting point. The more interesting point that Sanket is suggesting is that once you have gotten your chunk, once you have gotten your counter, you can assign or you can copy your elements, k elements, to this array without using lock. Will that work? Any suggestions? Will Sanket's suggestion work? That I have gotten this counter which is going to give me the starting address of my chunk, right? It could be 0k, 2k, 3k, something, if I am one of the 100 threads. If I use locks only for getting this counter value and I copy the elements outside of the lock, will that code work? That is my question. No suggestions? Okay. So this is in contrast to what Venkat was suggesting, that we will require the critical section to have updating the counter and then adding the elements, right? Element or elements, whatever, depending upon the value of key. Now, if you have gotten the counter, it is guaranteed that the counter is going to be a multiple of k. Why? Well, there is no such guarantee, right? So if you are incrementing it by 1, there is no such guarantee. But if you are incrementing by k, then there is a guarantee. Okay, so there are two suggestions here, right? And each one of that needs to be discussed. Let me just take up this Amit's suggestion. So we have this for loop I equal to k into thread id, I less than k into thread id plus k, I plus plus, add element to work list of I. Yeah, so this is similar to what Niranjan was suggesting initially, that you fix a chunk for a thread. But that will, or maybe Amit, I should clarify from you. Is this what you meant, that thread 0 will get the first chunk, thread 1 will get the second chunk, and so on? Chunk of k elements? Okay. Yeah, so this is a good idea, and that is what you should start with, provided all the threads are participating, right? But not all the threads will participate, plus not all the consecutive threads will participate. So what will happen is that if thread 1 is not participating, it will still leave k to 2k minus 1 chunk unused. So that we have to be careful about, but yeah, but otherwise this is the strategy that you should start with. That is correct. Okay, so now let's see if I can get the value of this counter in multiples of k, right? So any suggestions on how we can get that counter value to be exactly in the multiples of k? Is there a way I can do that? Okay, one option is that you just take a lock, right, on the counter, and then whatever, counter equal to counter plus k, right? That is your critical section, and that is guaranteed to give you a value initially 0 to k plus k, 3k, 4k, etc. And therefore you will be able to reserve the chunk just using this counter value, and then the copying can happen later because you have reserved that chunk. You don't need to really worry about now other threads who might be writing to that, because each thread is going to get a different multiple of key, right? That means that now from Venkat's code, I am moving that copying outside the critical section. The critical section now contains only counter equal to counter plus k. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me so far? Okay, anybody who has not understood this part? Maybe I asked the wrong question. Okay, so now my critical section contains counter equal to counter plus k. This can be nicely implemented using locks that we studied. Is there any better way of implementing it? You guys submitted assignment 2, right? Oh, but that probably did not require this because it was yeah, local to each. Yeah. Okay, so I am happy that I got some answer which is on the right track. Right? So counter equal to counter plus kth can be nicely implemented as Bharat is saying using atomic add. So I can have atomic add ampersand of counter comma k, and that is going to give me that the counter is going to get incremented by the value k, and it is going to return the old value of counter. So the first thread, whichever that is, maybe thread number 59, is going to get the value 0, which is the old value of counter. Some other thread is going to get k, then 2k, and so on. So as soon as I use atomic add, the critical section that I was talking about, which might involve multiple atomic instructions to be executed, because our implementation of lock was in a do while loop. So that can be simplified by using an atomic instruction. And so each thread, which out of these 1000, only these 100 threads are going to execute atomic add. You reserve your chunk just by updating this counter, and done. Then you can keep copying arbitrarily at later point in time without worrying about coordination with other threads. Right? Is that understood? Any questions on this one? Okay. Now let's say that I don't want, or maybe for some reason I'm not using atomic add, I'm using atomic increment. Right? So this add element to work list that Amit had written, while that was in a slightly data parallel context, I could make use of this in a similar manner, that adding elements to work list of I can be done using atomic increment also. What will be the effect of using atomic increment instead of atomic add? First of all, will it ensure that the that similar processing is going to get done what we were doing using atomic add? And if there are any differences with respect to using atomic add versus atomic increment. So just to recall, atomic increment the value of counter by 1.
Sir, I mean, we can use atomic increment and just our starting point will be k into whatever the counter is.
Okay, that is one nice way of implementing this. That is correct. That instead of the counter going from 0k to k, you just have the counter going from 0, 1, 2, 3 up to, in this case, 100. And then you copy from 0, I mean, the counter value into k to counter value into k plus k, very similar to what Amit had written. So that is one way in which this can be implemented. Sorry, Venkat, go ahead.
Also, is it something like since increment is a like it is an assembly instruction, like there's a straightaway assembly instruction available for increment in most languages. So can we say that atomic increment is faster than atomic add?
Yeah, so typically no. The reason being that the increment versus add, although at increment is definitely going to be slightly faster with, compared to add at the very lowest level probably, although it might not show up in the profiling as such. But the atomic cost is going to matter much more compared to this particular instructions cost, and therefore the atomic cost itself will turn out to be similar between the two, and therefore it's not going to hurt us either way or the other. So it is okay to use atomic add in this case, not an issue. Yeah, so but there is going to be another difference if I do not use this. So I get the counter value using atomic increment and I do not multiply it by k. What that will ensure, or what that will have as an effect, is that different elements of the same thread, let's say I want to insert k elements, those might not get inserted in the contiguous map. Earlier when I was reserving a chunk of k, I was actually getting contiguous chunk. But in some applications that might not be required. In which case you can just increment the counter, insert first element, then again you raise for another counter, which might come after some time, right, or after some space in this array. And therefore your k elements might be non-contiguously spaced into this work array, which may not be applicable in some, which may not be correct in some applications, but might work out, might be okay in some other applications. For example, in graph algorithms that we are discussing, parallel graph algorithms, it is okay to insert elements in arbitrary order. It will affect efficiency, but it will not affect correctness. So it might be all right in some applications, and depending upon that, you may want to use one or the other. But performance wise, you will not see much difference with respect to that. But there will be some place where you will see the performance difference. Where is the performance difference coming into picture? So individual atomic increment and individual atomic add, let's assume that these are going to have almost the same cost. Where will the performance difference come if I'm using atomic add versus atomic increment?
So maybe memory coalescing and writing.
Okay, that's a very good point. Memory coalescing will probably come into, well, that's a little difficult to think about.
Sorry, that point is not valid over here. I was thinking different threads writing at the same time. It does not matter. Like, yeah, even if they have a same chunk, they're writing sequentially to that. So
Right.
won't be in picture.
Yeah, correct. So coalescing is probably, it can have a small side effect on the coalescing thing when you later read the array, but yeah, it will probably not be the main performance related issue. But what could be the other issue? Anybody? Okay. So in general, we would like to reduce the number of atomics. Why? Because atomics means synchronization. We said that computation, then memory, then synchronization. And atomics is synchronization. In general, when you don't have too much conflict to the same memory location, the cost of atomics is not very high compared to a normal read-write. However, the cost can be high when you have, and it's not linear, when you have contention for the memory location. This counter is going to be used by all the 100 threads. I'm just taking the example of 100, but there could be more. And therefore, the number of atomics that you execute is going to matter. Atomic add is going to be exactly 100 times executed. Atomic increment, if you use, that will be 100 times k. And therefore, there will be a penalty if you use atomic increment instead of atomic add. Does that seem reasonable? Any issues with this? Okay. Somehow the responses are a little low today, but anyway, maybe you guys are hungry.
So one question, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in this implementation, we have to one thread has to read the counter value as well, no? So there will be two instructions: read the counter and update the add value to the counter. So
Very
isn't
good.
it possible that two threads are interleaved between these two instructions? We'll get to
Yes.
garbage value.
Good. So this forces us to look at atomicworklist.cu. But yeah, before that, I think we have to first relax that constraint. So what Shubham is suggesting is that, doesn't it happen that you need to actually read the value of counter and then update the value of counter? Aren't there two instructions like this? So anybody wants to answer, Shubham?
Sir, but atomic add will take care of that, right? All of that will happen in one go.
Okay. So I'm just going to write it in the chat box, the syntax of this. Oops. Counter. So the syntax of atomic add says that I give the memory location and then by what quantity I want to update its value. and the old value is going to get returned. The semantics of atomic add say that reading of the counter, adding the value of k, and writing the new value of counter is done atomically, which means that the reading as well as writing is done without any intervening, any other thread seeing any intermediate state, right? So that is the guarantee which is given by the hardware. So therefore we are okay doing this. But if this would not have been atomic add, for example, if this is a normal statement like this, then we are going to have trouble. Does that seem reasonable, Shubham?
Yes, sir, but sir, I thought atomic add is returns void.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So atomic add should return the old value. Correct. Any other suggestions? Okay. Now let's talk about what happens when you do not have this flexibility that each thread adds exactly k. Right? Each thread might add a different number of elements. What does it change in your code?
Each thread will add a different value to the counter, sir. I don't think.
Yeah. So,
Sir,
yeah, Venkat, go ahead.
sir, if we are using atomic increment, like the way you said that the heterogeneous addition, that time it won't matter, right?
Right. So there are multiple answers that I am getting. Yeah, and whenever I cough after I mute myself, Google says that are you speaking? Right. So I think there is something more that needs to be done in that space. Okay. So yes. So if you are using atomic increment, then it doesn't matter whether k is same or not. But if you are using atomic add, well, instead of using k, which is going to be more like a fixed variable across all threads, this is probably going to be k of thread id or whatever, some other local variable which is going to be local to each thread, right? So therefore even if you use atomic add, okay, sorry, no, so that is not going to happen, sorry about that. So if you are using atomic add and you increment it by a different value, then it is not clear. Hold on. Yeah, it will be clear. So that is okay. Yeah. So you can use either atomic increment, in which your elements might get interspersed, or you can use atomic add, where this value could be some ki, which might differ across threads. And what is guaranteed is that your counter has been updated from the old value of counter to this ki, right? And therefore no other thread will ever get something within this ki chunk. And therefore you will be able to work out irrespective of whether you use atomic add or atomic increment. It's just that again the performance related aspects that we discussed will come into play with respect to the number of atomics that we execute. Right. So the k can vary, that is okay. Divya says atomic increment ampersand of I while I less than n, work list of I equal to add ith element. Right, but the second argument is going to be important here to atomic increment, right? Yeah, so then you don't need a while loop. So atomic increment is going to give you only one location. So you can insert one element. So if I have 10 elements to be inserted, if my ki is 10, the atomic increment will give me one location. I'm going to insert it there. Then I need to again race for atomic increment. So that atomic increment
Yes, sir,
means
it should be inside while.
inside.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Also, sir, I think there's a mistake, sir, that we have to check a value of I. If two threads increment one after the other, and then insert into work list. So maybe at one index there will be two values in work list. If we will use this indexing.
No, if you are using atomic increment, no two threads will get the same value. even if they are executing this atomic increment ampersand of I at exactly the same time, the hardware will make sure that they are reordered in one or the other way,
But
irrespective
sir,
of the
I
number of.
will have the same value. I.
So that is the guarantee that is provided by atomic increment. That if I equal to 0 initially and two threads execute atomic increment ampersand of I, then one thread is guaranteed to see the value 0, the other thread is guaranteed to see the value 1, but it can change across the two threads. That is, second thread might see the value 0, first thread might see the value 1. So the ordering is not guaranteed, but they are guaranteed to see different values, even if they are executing atomic increment exactly at the same time. That means they are probably part of the same warp. That is also okay, but they will get different values. Okay. Any other concerns here? Oops. We have actually exceeded the time. Okay, we'll continue our discussion on this. I'll show you the code later. And we'll stop here. If there are any questions, we can take those up now. And sorry